Before we get into encryption and some of the more technical things about it, first of all, let's talk about what it really is. Now, in order to talk about encryption, first let's talk about what some of the threats are to our data, our personal information out there on the internet. Well, we know that there are such things as identity thieves, and then we know that they steal data and often get credit cards or open bank accounts in our names, and they basically commit fraud and other crimes with this data sometimes. And it doesn't affect just people, it affects companies, corporations, and even the government. There's data out there that shouldn't be read by everybody, and what we want to do is protect that data from unauthorized people. Well, this information in the forms of files or documents or whatever is sometimes sent across the internet in what we call plain text. Now, this is a human readable form, meaning I can send a Word document to someone else, and anyone with Microsoft Word or whatever word processing program was used can open that document and just look at it and read it. Okay? This data, again, can be used for all kinds of nefarious purposes. Now, how do we keep this from happening? Well, there's several different ways to do it, but here's some ways that we don't do it. We could choose not to store it at all or send it. Well, that's not very practical because we live in the information age. We have to send electronic data. We have to store electronic data. It wouldn't do us any good if we didn't have it. We also can't really lock it in a safe. That's not very efficient. Data needs to be at our fingertips on our computers when we need it. We shouldn't have to go and unlock a safe and pull a CD-ROM out, pop it in the computer just for a 5-minute transaction. So that's not practical. We could also commit it only to memory, okay, and only type it in when we need it. Well, in some cases, like our Social Security number, that might be practical, but usually it's not very practical, okay? How many of us remember every single credit card number we have? Probably not that many. Like I said, in this information age, information must be readily available to us, and we have to be able to use it. We have to be able to send it and store it on our computers, and we also have to protect it. Well, how do we do this? That's where encryption comes in. Encryption is a process, and sometimes it's a process, sometimes we call it a technology, sometimes we say it's an encryption system. Whatever. Encryption really is a process that occurs to data, to information, to preserve its secrecy or, as we say in the computer security world, its confidentiality. Okay? What does encryption do? Well, it takes data, maybe a Word document, maybe a PowerPoint slide presentation, maybe a text document, and it scrambles that document. Okay, it scrambles that data, and what we want to do is prevent that data from being read by an unauthorized person. However, we also want the data to be able to be read by whoever really is authorized. So if I send someone some encrypted data over the internet, I want to protect it from being read by people who aren't supposed to, but I do want the other party to be able to read it. So there is that caveat there. We don't just encrypt it so that nobody can ever read it. We want to encrypt it and enable someone, just a particular someone, to read it. Now, this whole thing usually involves a process or a system or a technology. So the data owner, whoever sends it, whoever has the data, whoever controls it, can encrypt that data to protect it and decrypt it to unscramble it or read it. Now, data can be encrypted, and this could be, again, any kind of file that we have, a word processing document, a spreadsheet, whatever. Any kind of electronic data can be encrypted as a file or whatever. And this could be encrypted while at rest. We say at rest while it's in storage or while it resides on a hard drive or a CD-ROM or a memory stick or whatever. We want to encrypt that data when we're not using it, and we want to be able to open it and use it, and then when we're done with it, we want to go back to an encrypted state so that if we lose our laptop or someone gets into our computer, they can't access it. We also want to be able to encrypt data that's sent through the network or through the internet, and we call this during transmission, while data is being transmitted, so that if I send a piece of encrypted data to my friend across the country, no one else can read that data. So we're going to talk about some encryption basics, okay? That's what this particular session and the next few sessions are about, is data encryption basics. And we're going to cover just some of the basic terms and concepts of data encryption so you can understand where we're coming from before we get into the technical stuff. So with that, let's move on.